everybody. Today is just a weekly gardening related check-in. I've been doing a grow along with me type thing where we have started growing tomato seeds together, hopefully live, so I can teach you how to grow heirloom tomatoes organically, especially in the warmer climates where that can be very challenging. So we're going to check in and see how you guys are doing with your tomato seedlings. And we're also going to talk about fall gardening because this entire month of August is a huge prep month for me. I'm cleaning out my garden, getting everything ready to take full advantage of fall, winter, and very early spring gardening. Because here in Florida and the warmer south, if you're in zones like 8, 9, 10, 11, fall, winter, and spring is like the best time to grow things, in my opinion. We can grow everything. Everything. Summertime for us is like jungle gardening, so there's a limited amount of crops that we can successfully grow during the summer. So when fall comes, or when it's starting to get there, I get really excited. I start gutting out the garden, and just preparing everything so that I can take full advantage of the best growing season and weather here in Florida. Is it too late to plant tomatoes? I will also answer any questions you guys have, whether it be about tomatoes or not, whatever you guys want to talk about gardening related. Please let me know your zones. You're in Minnesota. Yes, for you, it definitely is very late to get started on growing tomatoes. Minnesota, I think you guys can grow tomatoes during the summer just fine because you have much more temperate weather. My in-laws are actually from Minnesota, so I've been there in August, and it was chilly for me. I actually had to wear a sweater. So tomatoes really do much better in a more temperate, more consistent like weather. So for you, if you're in zones that it actually snows, and here in Florida where I'm at, it does not snow. But if it snows where you're at, then start your tomato seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. So whatever date that is, if you don't know what your frost dates are, please go Google that. That's very important information. So yeah, you kind of missed that mark. Here in the south, it doesn't get cold enough to kill our tomato plants during the winter time. So that's why I'm growing them here in the winter. It's like the opposite for me. Actually, summer kills off my tomato plants. The heat, the rains, the pests, everything. Tomato plants just cannot handle that. And by this point in August, all the plants that I planted last fall and starting in September that grew for me the entire winter and everything have died. They started dying off in June. They're not happy here in the summer in Florida. So that's why I am starting my seeds now. Whereas you guys up north, you can watch this and learn and get ready. So that way, 6 to 8 weeks before your frost date, probably, I'm going to say that's probably like January or February for you, somewhere around there. You can have a lot of ideas and be very successful next season. If you guys ask me a question, please let me know what zone you're in or state or whatever, so I have some kind of idea. I garden in the south in Florida, so a lot of my information is catered to southern gardens, where we struggle a lot with heat, and it doesn't get cold enough during the winter and stuff like that. So we actually grow a lot of stuff during the winter while everyone else is covered in snow. I'm actually harvesting tomatoes. But anyways, let's get started. Let's just check in. Hello, hi Erica. I love watching your stuff. Let's get started. Let's just check in on the tomatoes. I don't know if you guys have been following along with me a couple weeks back, starting on the first live session on July 17th. That's when I actually started sowing my tomato seeds. And for me, the last time I can sow tomato seeds is December 1st, just so I get them in the garden at the end of January and I harvest everything before June comes. That's the goal if you're in the south. If you're in zones 8, 9, 10, 11, you want to harvest everything before summer comes, like June, because again, like I said earlier, it will kill off your plants. So we have a very long worm season. That's like 9 months of growing time. So we are blessed with that. Take advantage. So literally I can start tomato seeds anywhere between the middle of July all the way to December 1st, just to make sure that the plants grow and I harvest everything off those plants before June comes. And trust me, you will harvest a lot. so much. So these, I started July 17th through the 22nd, something like that, because I have hundreds of plants. I love growing tomatoes. So it took me a while to finish sowing everything. But more or less, these seedlings are about 4 weeks old, and they are growing very fast. I would say in about 2 more weeks, these will be ready to be transplanted into the garden. You don't want to wait too long for them to get root bound or something like that, because that will actually stunt their growth, and they won't just take off as quickly and as well as plants, if they get root bound before you put them into the ground. So the faster you can put these in the ground, the better. They will take off faster, they will grow much better for you. I have actually, sometimes I just don't get around to it. I'm busy, whatever, and I don't immediately transplant these. I would say the 8 week mark, they need to be transplanted by then, but I've waited longer than that. They were root bound. I definitely saw the difference in the growth rate between the root bound ones and the ones that were transplanted before they hit 8 weeks. So it definitely is something that will affect your plants. I mean, they will still grow. Eventually they'll catch up and you'll harvest off from them, but I really push to get all my crops and stuff in the ground as early as possible, so I can just harvest as much as possible as well. I really push to get the garden started as early as I can. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to read your questions. I'm kind of far away today. Some of our seedlings are getting shriveled leaves, and we're not sure if it's because we're over or underwater. It could be so many factors, to be honest. To check if you're overwatering anything, you stick your finger in the soil, and if it's to your second knuckle, if it's dry, then water. If it's still wet, do not water. That goes for anything, whether it be something in a pot or a container, or if it's a garden bed or whatever. Definitely overwatering is probably the number one thing that people do that kills off their plants, because you're concerned, you think they need a lot of water. It's actually really good to allow the soil to dry out just a little bit before you water again, and that way you can avoid that problem. The other thing that it might be is, are your seedlings getting enough light? Or if you look at the base of the seedling where they touch the soil, does it look rotted or anything funny like that? Because then that means you got some kind of dampening off. I don't know if it's a mold or what, but it grows on the surface of usually your seedlings that you've overwatered, and it will actually eat into the base of the stem and kill your plants that way too. Your seedlings, they're very susceptible to that. How often do I water my seedlings? Again, when I see them dry out, literally just stick your finger in there, and if it's moist until your second knuckle, don't water them. And when you do water them, make sure you water them well to where that water goes all the way down to the bottom of the root system here. Sometimes I'm not paying attention and I think I've watered it, the surface is wet, but really all down here is dry and it's still shrinking, and I'm like, what's going on? I watered it. Why is my plant looking like it's dried out or whatever? And it's because the water just didn't get all the way down in here. So to completely avoid that, you should put these in a tray or something that doesn't have holes in it. So you fill the tray up with water, then you put these in that tray, and they will bottom soak up the water, and that's how you know this whole thing will be fully saturated with water the proper way. I mean, that's what you should be doing to avoid any of those kinds of problems. It's not rotting at the stem. So it has to be either you're overwatering it or they're not getting enough sun or light. One of those two would be my guess. If they look like they're just wilting, then I wouldn't think it's some kind of bug or insect, unless maybe you have aphids, because aphids chew into the stems and they suck out the juices as well. So, but I'm sure you would have noticed that. But I would probably stop watering. Stick your finger in there. Test it out first. Let them dry out in between watering. They're under. Okay, so that's like me. My lights are 5,000. It's actually Kelvins. K. I messed that up. Some of you corrected me on that. I don't know why I kept thinking lumens. It's 5,000 K lights is what I use. That's K for Kelvin, and it's just color temperature. That just means that the bulbs are daylight, which is what you want in general, just for some basic lighting for your plants. So I would assume then you're probably overwatering because mine are under the same kind of light and they're fine. I only water maybe like twice a week or so, something like that. But it also depends where they're at. Are they outdoors? Are they indoors? Mine are kind of like in the middle. They're in a covered patio, but it's still really hot outside. So just try testing out the soil, making sure it dries out properly before you're watering again. The Kellogg's and Everglades are doing great. Okay, I don't know. That's weird. So some varieties are doing great and some others aren't. Um, Everglades basically survives through anything. They grow. They're not native to Florida. I believe they came from South America, but they have naturalized in Florida, literally in the Everglades, and they grow everywhere. Like I don't even have to fertilize them, water them, nothing. Once they're established, like they're great. So they grow through anything. And Kellogg's is a beast as well. Once that thing gets going and you start harvesting, they're all consistently really large tomatoes, and they're really meaty. Like when you slice them, one slice goes over an entire piece of sandwich bread. Like they're huge. I love Kellogg's breakfast for sandwiches. But yeah, so this is kind of like what your seedlings should look at the 4 week mark. If they're cherry tomatoes, it might be a little smaller just because cherry plants, they're kind of big, smaller plants. This is a pineapple tomato. This is a really big size tomato, so it's definitely going to be a bigger size vine. And you should be fertilizing, I hope. Fertilizing with some liquid fertilizer, just whatever you can find. Nitrogen is probably the most important thing at this point. Just trying to get some nice green leafy growth right now, but any balanced fertilizer, whatever you can find. I really like Fox Farms products. Everyone raves about them. They truly are great. I don't think they are technically organic, but this is awesome stuff. I only use this for my seedlings though. It's their Grow Big, and I use it basically on all my seedlings once they get their first set of true leaves, and that's why these look so good, really really good. Then next time we meet alive, I'm gonna show you guys how I transplant my tomatoes, because by that point they will definitely need to be put into the ground. Black and yellow eggs. Can you tell me what are you referencing? Tomatoes or squash? Um, I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of far from my phone, so it's hard to read it. But Mother Penguin? Sorry, I can't read it. What tomatoes and peppers? Okay, black and yellow eggs. Are the leaves chewed up? Usually black, like little black dots, is actually caterpillar poop from worms that are eating on your plants. The yellow eggs, that could be so many things. It could also be the eggs from those same caterpillars. They look good. That's really weird. That's really weird. If they look good and they're not damaged, don't worry about it. Just leave it. You don't treat for nothing if you don't see damage or something. Like sometimes some of my plants get aphids, and I'll leave the aphids there until if it gets out of control, because ladybugs love to eat aphids, and so do a lot of other beneficial insects. So if the aphids are there and my plant is still growing and it's still producing for me, I leave it. I only treat it when sometimes they get out of control, and I can literally see like the plants are like shriveling up or getting kind of weird shape. That's how you know that there really now is too many aphids. So if your plants are fine, leave it alone for now, I would say. Would tomatillo plants produce the rest? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Oh, produce the best, maybe? Tomatillos? To be honest with you, I have never grown tomatillos. Besides, well, it's a relative, the physalis, gooseberries, golden berries. They have so many names for them. They're kind of like I believe they are a relative of tomatoes and tomatillos. But I've never grown tomatillos because I don't like them. Like, never grow anything that you don't enjoy to eat. And not that I don't like them. Let me erase that comment. I've never had them. I love to eat all kinds of things, but I've never really tasted them, and it's not something that I grew up like eating or cooking with or something like that. So quite honestly, I'm not very familiar with tomatillos, so I don't grow them. Which is kind of odd because I try to promote the weird, unusual stuff and try to educate people on different crops and stuff that maybe you've never tried before or never heard of. Just because I feel like there's so much more variety of things that you can grow, especially if you're starting your own seed. You have access to such a big variety of things that you maybe would never eat in your whole life unless you grew it yourself because it's not grown in a grocery store or wherever. So I'm a big proponent of that, and I love showing you guys like the weird stuff. Um, but yeah, I've never. You know what? I guess I'm gonna have to try growing some tomatillos. I still have time to get seeds in the ground right now. They're related to tomatoes, so I would assume that they grow probably very similar like tomatoes. The plants probably look similar as well, I'm assuming. Um, so I'll have to go find some seeds somewhere. If you have a variety that you really enjoy, let me know, and I'll see if I can get some, or I'll trade with you if you have some seeds. So anyways, so I don't know. Tag me, guys, on if you post anything about your tomatoes. I want to see your progress. This grow along, the theme was heirloom tomatoes. So if you have any questions, or if you're asking me a question about pests or something, sometimes a picture or like tagging me really helps. Really helps a lot. So yeah, feel free to tag me or message me with any questions about that. Now, I really wanted to discuss fall gardening prep because this is August. September is a huge planting month for me. So August, my whole garden is like torn up right now. I'm yanking out stuff. I'm removing beds. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So I've been kind of absent actually on social media because of that. Like my garden is just a giant mess right now. And I'm very, very busy every day, like working on stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little break and just focus on getting the garden ready for fall so I can have a lot to show you guys, because fall, again, like I said, is such a great growing season for us here in Florida, and I can grow anything, like everything now. So my garden is definitely going to be full, and I'm going to have a lot to show. But for fall garden prep, right now, basically zones 8, 9, 10, 11. Get ready for fall gardening, start cleaning up things, refreshing your beds with like compost, removing weeds. Right now, a big thing for me is every year, man, these weeds just kill me. They really do. I'm in Florida. Literally in 1 week's worth of rain and everything, the weeds, it's like a jungle. And it's so much work for me. And I'm just one person managing my garden and a second garden that I have going on another property. So I have been implementing the use of black nursery grade weed blocking material, and I tested that out in my second garden, and it's working out great over there. So I'm also like just gutting out everything here at home and installing all of that so that next year, hopefully I won't have to spend the whole month of August cleaning and doing everything. How much did you dilute the Fox Farms grow bag? Okay, so if you read the directions, this works with no matter what liquid fertilizer you want to use on your seedlings. Read the directions. It says for general feeding, 2 to 3 teaspoons per gallon. Cut that in half for your seedlings. So I've been doing literally 1 teaspoon per gallon. That's a tiny little bit. This lasts me a long time. So yeah, for your seedlings, always mix your fertilizer at half strength, at whatever the general feeding directions will say. Can you go over the fertilizing? I have the fox farms. Okay, I think I covered that. So yeah, for the seedling stage, I fertilize with this once a week until they are ready to be popped into the ground. And just to prepare you guys, because next time we meet in September, by that point you're probably starting to transplant your tomatoes. I know I will. I will probably start transplanting a lot of them the last week of August and finish up the first week of September. So just so you know, supplies for transplanting tomatoes, so you have them ready. When we dig the hole for the tomato, we stick the entire thing in there, in that hole, up to half the stem. And the reason why you do that is because anywhere this stem is exposed to soil will grow roots. And the bigger root system you have, especially for tomatoes, the bigger the plant, the healthier, the more output you're going to get, the more fruit. So that is why for tomatoes specifically, I don't think I do this with any other crop. It's only with tomatoes that you bury half the stem in there. Okay, so that's how deep of a hole you would have to make. Now, anything that I plant in a hole, transplanting time, I put some kind of fertilizer in that hole. I mean, there's so many things you could use. Just whatever you have available, use that. If you just have general 10-10-10, sprinkle some in there and mix up the soil at the bottom so that the roots don't come in direct contact with the 10-10-10, because that is a synthetic fertilizer and it could burn the roots. So any synthetic fertilizer type stuff, make sure you mix it up into the soil a little bit before you pop your plant in there. I really like to use organic stuff though, because you can pretty much dump as much organic fertilizer on stuff and it does not burn your plants. So I have my favorite is Job's or Espoma. This is the Espoma tomato tone. I use this on all my vegetables, all of them. Doesn't matter what it is. So I will sprinkle some of that at the bottom of the planting hole and mix it up a little bit. Also, I save my eggs all year round, whatever. So I have bags of eggs that I process. I dry them out in the oven for like 10 minutes at 220 degrees Fahrenheit just to dry them out. And then the shells, and then I pulverize them as fine as I can get it. My blender's not that great, so it is a little gritty. It's kind of like sand, but this is like calcium, and this really helps with preventing blossom end rot. So yeah, I put this at the bottom of all my tomatoes. And one thing that you can do with this too, this takes a while to break down and release that calcium into the soil. I forget what you can mix into this. I think it's vinegar. I think there's recipes online. If you take this powdered eggshell and you put some vinegar in it, it'll like bubble up and everything. And that immediately activates the calcium to where it is now easily dispersed into the soil and uptaken by plants. So I will be trying that this year. I usually just dump some in there, but I think I'll try that this year just to activate the calcium a little bit. Vinegar helps dissolve, that makes sense. Vinegar helps dissolve the shell. I've seen so many videos on it. But yeah, if you pour some vinegar into the shell, it bubbles up, and I believe it helps release that calcium so it breaks down or gets incorporated into the soil a lot faster. So I will definitely be putting that in there. If you have azomite is basically rocks that are pulverized, and there's a lot of different kind of minerals in there. A lot of people say that minerals in the soil is what gives tomatoes their flavor, which I've been testing that out. I can't say for sure yet. I'm not really sure, but I like azomite just because I have very sandy soil here in Florida, and whenever it rains or whatever, it literally, that rain goes right straight through that soil and washes everything out, washes all the nutrients, minerals, all that kind of thing. So I do like to add azomite into my garden as a way to refresh that soil with more minerals. If you can find azomite that is soluble in water, that's even better. So just check that out. There's different forms of it. I have a big bag of powder form. It's not soluble in water though, but I will be getting that next time. I just want to use it up, but I just sprinkle that in there and mix it around into the soil as well. It helps to be more bioavailable for the plant. Yes, you're right. Exactly right. When you put the vinegar into the eggshells. So yes, we've got eggshells you can put in there, fertilizer, azomite. If you get rock phosphate, that is phosphate. So you can add some of that in there. Phosphate helps with flowering and fruit production. So I also really love to put rock phosphate in with peppers. I feel that it's helped my pepper plants get bigger sized peppers, or produce bigger peppers. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if you have anything else, throw it in there. Just don't leave that hole empty. Put something in there for your tomatoes, because they are definitely a very hungry crop, and that will help them get off to a really good start. And that's pretty much it. Then I'm also gonna put mulch on top of it too. Mulch is really important with tomatoes, guys. Tomatoes, literally, they will catch any disease there possibly is in my garden. They will get them at some point. So most diseases, leaf funguses, molds, pathogens, whatever, live in the soil. And when you water your plants or it rains, the water splashes back up onto the leaves of your plants and deposits those pathogens on the leaves, and that's how it now spreads and infects your tomato plants. So to prevent a lot of that, mulching with several inches, I would say 4 or 5 inches if you can, just a little mound, you know, around the base of the plant to prevent that backsplash will help this plant survive longer before it ultimately succumbs to those diseases, because they're coming. If you're in the south and it's humid, like where it is here in Florida, they're going to get diseases. I give up. I don't even treat for them. I give up. They're going to get it, but I still get tons of production before that happens, before they die from the diseases. But yeah, definitely at least prevent it if you can. So mulching will be another thing that you will need for your tomato plants when it comes to time to transplanting. And then for fall gardening, back to that, I keep bouncing back and forth. Like I said, I'm gutting out my garden, getting everything ready, cleaning things out, installing weed blocking material. I will be burning holes into the weed blocking material. It's plastic, so it's real easy to burn holes in there with like a blowtorch. Every 1 foot, because I do follow square foot gardening rules, so to speak, a little bit when it comes to figuring out the spacing of my plants. So tomatoes, I literally will put them 1 foot apart. I don't care. A lot of people say that's bad because they have big root systems, they need a lot of nutrients, now they're going to be competing with each other. I find that's not the case in smaller home gardens and settings like that, where you're composting, you're adding a lot of organic material into the soil, you're fertilizing. My fertilizing game with tomatoes is on point. I am fertilizing small doses of the granular stuff from Espoma that I just showed you guys on a weekly basis. Small doses, so that just keeps like a nice consistent nutrient supply to the plants. And I don't think they compete with each other. I haven't found any kind of effect, a bad effect on them or anything like that. The only thing is that these plants get huge, and so when they are 1 foot apart, it's like a whole tomato hedge bush that I have, like rows of them, and that can get overwhelming, especially in a small garden like mine. And I will literally go in there and prune off everything, and they will grow again and flush more flowers and fruit again. And I probably do that once or twice from the growing season, which, like, you know, fall, winter, and spring, until summer comes again. So that's a couple times doing that. This year, because I have a second garden now with a lot more space, I am going to space them 2 feet apart now. And then I'm still going to burn a hole into the plastic every 1 foot. So I'm going to put 1 tomato plant every 2 feet. This middle hole that will be empty is going to have a companion plant, whether that be marigolds or basil or something like that, to help deter pests and nematodes and stuff like that. So I will have a plant like that, or a flower for the pollinators and beneficials, something like that in between each tomato plant. And then the tomato plants themselves will grow bigger and they'll have a little bit more space. So I'm doing that this year. But if you don't have a lot of space, you can definitely cram them in 1 foot apart from each other. Just know that they'll get really big and bushy, and you might have to, you know, prune a little bit more than you would like to. Question: I have 2 pumpkin plants, but none are producing pumpkins. I've had them in since May. Can it be the summer heat or it being next to concrete? I don't think it's the concrete. It could be the heat. If it's very, very hot, first off, what zone are you in and what kind of pumpkin? If it's calabaza, that stuff literally takes months, 6 to 8 months to 9, 10 months to produce a pumpkin. I was reading the other day that calabaza won't produce anything until, I believe, the daylight hours start shrinking. And then it'll start putting out female flowers and producing pumpkins, and that happens in fall. So no matter what time of the year you planted it, it's not going to start producing until fall. So just know that can happen, that certain varieties of pumpkins and squash are affected by daylight hours. You're in Virginia. What variety of pumpkin plants? Just like regular pumpkins for like pumpkin pie, or Seminal pumpkins? That helps a little bit too. Or it could also be a lot of varieties of pumpkins. Like I grow Seminal pumpkins a lot. They literally will take 4 to 6 months to start producing female flowers from seed. They will put out a lot of male flowers before they will put out the female. Eventually, the female flowers will come. You'll just have to be patient. I see that as a question a lot. People are like, oh, I'm getting a lot of male flowers, but no female flowers. There's nothing you can do. You just gotta wait. But they will come. You just have to wait. It's a pumpkin pie one. Okay, because you're in Virginia, I don't think it's the heat. Heat can affect a lot of different crops, like tomatoes especially too. If it's too hot, the flowers won't form properly, or they'll drop, or it can even damage the like the actual genetics DNA of the pollen. So like even if they are getting pollinated, it's damaged pollen and it won't work. Like with tomatoes, for example, they stop flowering for me during the summer. So even if I got this plant to survive all the diseases and everything in the summer, they're not flowering for me. They're not producing for me anyways. So I just yank them out in the summer. Trust me, they're not coming back. But yes, it can affect flowering for lots of things. Squashes, I notice some zucchini varieties for me, and once it gets too hot, they're not happy and they're not going to flower or produce properly. Can you start Seminal Pumpkin today, East Central Florida, 9B? Oh, you're just like me. Yes, I am still to this day starting seeds for all kinds of pumpkins or big squashes like banana squashes, Seminal pumpkins, all of those things. You're very welcome, Spicy. The game plan with no matter where you live in the country, this will apply to you. What can you start from seed now that will grow and produce for you before your first cold front comes? For me, since we're in the same zone, I track like when every year in a calendar, like when the first cold front comes, and that always seems to be the week of Christmas, that last week of December. So if you want to grow whatever it is you want to grow, just backtrack, calculate how many months do you need for this thing to grow from seed to harvest. Definitely you can grow Seminole pumpkin if you start seed right now and start harvesting. I would say they start producing around 4 or 5 months. So you will get some harvest before that first cold front comes in December. But even with that first cold front, it's not cold enough to kill the plant. It might like not be happy and it might stop growing, but she'll probably bounce right back once the temperatures get warmer. And as you know, our winters fluctuate. One day it'll be cold and then it won't be cold anymore for a couple weeks. So it might survive and keep producing for you. Seminole pumpkin is a very hardy variety. It's native to Florida, and it grows and lasts through the worst conditions possible. So do it. I'm sure you're going to be able to harvest a bunch of pumpkins before that plant dies. I bought the red and green yard-long beans. They are so cute and little baby plants right now. I am still starting seeds for yard-long beans right now. Yard-long beans are more of a tropical plant. So if you're in the south, you still have time to get one more harvest in before the cold comes. They start producing at around the 2 month mark, so you can definitely start growing those right now too. Direct sowing, anyways. How long should the green and red yard-long beans before? 2 months. So you have time. Trust me, they're going to be fine. Washington State here had a great crop of peas, but they took over. Everything else is slow. I mean, you're in Washington. Your climate is very different than mine. I don't know if I don't think it's getting cold where you're at right now. Peas love cooler weather. Like they won't grow here for me until November and December when it definitely is colder. We have a very small window to grow any kinds of peas, even snow peas. They really like the colder weather. So if they're thriving where you're at right now, that means your weather is probably getting on the colder end. Um, so you definitely start switching to your like fall and winter crops by this point. Do you have to soak the Seminole pumpkin seeds before you plant? No, I don't soak seeds for any squashes or beans or anything like that. I know a lot of people soak seeds. I would say the only things that I soak seeds for are moringa, because moringa has a very hard shell and it needs to soften up a little bit. So I soak those in warm water for 24 hours. Um, there's really nothing else that I soak. Morning glory seeds, because those are notoriously hard shelled as well. Loofah, if you grow loofah, I do soak those seeds too, because they also have a hard shell. But I don't soak any other kind of crop seeds. Are papayas year round? I mean, can I plant seeds now? They are year round if you are in zones like 10 and 11. It doesn't get cold enough to kill a papaya plant. I'm in zone 9B, so I'm very close to getting into 10. But there are some, my aunt's property, she has papayas. There are some winter nights that get cold enough to like kill her plant, or at least like half of it affected in some way. So they definitely will get affected if your zone's 9 and colder, but if you're 10 and 11, you should be fine. And you can plant seeds right now. Pineapples only produce one fruit per plant. You know, I thought that. I thought, you know, because whenever I buy a pineapple from the grocery store, I cut off the little crown part and I plant them. Every single one of my pineapples. I probably have like 50 pineapple plants at this point. And I cut off the pineapple when it's fruited for me, and I leave the plant there, and I'm too lazy to go and like dig it back up, because some people say that they only produce one pineapple and then just yank the plant out because there's no point, right? It's not going to produce anymore. But I'm lazy and I've left plants there, and I swear they have produced another side shoot with another pineapple. So I don't know if it's dependent on the variety. I also have read things where a plant can produce like three consecutive pineapple babies before it's like that's it. So I don't know, but if you have the space and just leave it and see what happens. I have seen it happen where it produced at least two pineapples for me. So anyways, speaking about fall, like things that you can still have time to plant seed for, I made a list here of kind of my game plan. Again, I'm zone 9B. If you're in zones like 8, you're 2 weeks ahead of me. So anything that I mentioned now, you could pretty much do right now. If you're zones 10 and 11, you're 2 weeks behind me. So whatever I'm mentioning now, plan to put it in the ground or start seeds, whatever, about 2 weeks from now. But just to give you guys some idea, because like it just doesn't get cold enough in our climate, in our zones, to really kill things off. So we still have time to plant a lot of things. So what can you start from seed right now? The top of my list was Seminal pumpkins and the big squashes. Tromboncino. This is actually the Tromboncino rapicante right behind me. This bed is 12 foot long. If you see, it starts here, it goes 12 feet that way. It's covered in like 3 Tromboncino plants. It doesn't get cold enough to kill them. So if this plant behind me keeps growing and surviving, it literally will keep producing for me, like for many months. And I highly recommend that you grow this at least once. This is like one of my favorite things. So yeah, Seminal pumpkins, big squashes like Tromboncino rapicante, banana squashes, pumpkins, all of those kinds of things. You can make a mound, pop 2 seeds in there, and direct sow them at this point. It's nice and warm. They will germinate very easily and grow and take off very well. I'm in Florida. I'm in Central Florida. I did live in Texas for 3 years, actually in Galveston, Texas, which is Zone 9B, just like Zone 9B where I'm at now in Florida, but they were not the same. I don't know what that's about, but they were not the same. Galveston, winter was definitely way colder. We would get icicles, long icicles. I've never even seen snow before in Florida. So where I'm at, we're icicles. So I don't know what that is, why we're the same zone, but it's not quite the same. But yeah, I lived in Texas for 3 years. I loved it. That's actually, I joined a community garden there, and that's where I was exposed to a lot of crop growing, and I learned a lot of what I now do today, thanks to Texas and the community garden that I was a part of there. But anyways, let me finish up this list here. Zucchini. So zucchini is really hard to grow here during the summer. They're one of those crops that if it gets too hot, the flowers won't produce properly, or like form properly, or produce any fruit for you. So any kind of zucchinis, start the seeds now because it's nice and warm. They will germinate, and then once the temperatures drop just a little bit, they'll start flowering and producing like normal, like they should. Or I have seeds for a zucchini variety called Alexandria. That is the only traditional looking zucchini that I have ever been able to grow straight through the summer here in Florida. It has a very high pest and disease resistance. I have some growing right now and producing for me. There's seeds in my Etsy shop. If you live in a warm climate, you need to try this at least once. If you like zucchini but struggle growing it during the summer, please try the Alexandria variety. It is awesome. Or the Tromboncino rapicante behind me. This thing, I love it more than zucchini, actually. The texture is just more crisp. It doesn't get as mushy. But anyways, so zucchini, now's the time to start a whole bunch of zucchini. All tomatoes, like I said, I start seeds from middle of July all the way to December 1st. So you have plenty of time to start your tomatoes from seeds right now. Herbs. So herbs don't like the summer heat that much. I mean, I have some that survive through it. but they are more Mediterranean. They like drier climates. They survive in like rocks and like soils that drain very easily. So a common problem in the South, because we get so much rain during the summertime, is that they get root rot and they just start dying off. So to prevent that or help with that, I grow all of my herbs in containers or raised beds or something like that, where the soil can dry out very well in between watering or in between rain. And a lot of them have survived for me. Some don't, but it definitely helps. But I start all my herbs from seeds right now, so I can put them in the garden like September, October, like that. They are very happy growing all through winter into spring. And then if they get good drainage, like I said, they might even survive for you during the summer. Right now, you might have time to direct sow small size types of watermelons or melons like Kajari melons or like Sugar Baby, the smaller size melons. Because they will go from seed all the way to harvest very quickly because they're smaller. I don't recommend doing that for the bigger size watermelons that need to stay on the vine and, they take a longer period of time to ripen up. Melons don't like cold, so as the temperatures start dropping, they're just not happy. You can see they're not growing very well. But if you get those small varieties, you might have time to pop some in if you do it now and get production out of them. All flowers you can start from seed right now and get another batch or second round. Whatever flowers you want to grow, literally. If you're in the warm south, they will grow from seed and start flowering before the cold comes. And I've even had zinnias, like they reseed around my garden in the middle of January. They're popping up and growing. So if you're in the warm south, I mean, flowers will grow pretty much year round for you. We have 3 Transplanting rapicantes planted together in a big barrel. Do you think they'll be okay growing within a foot of each other in the barrel? Yes, they will. I follow like the square foot gardening guidelines, which would say no, especially a crop that is that big. Like this is it behind me. They get really, really big. But I cram the heck out of everything anyways. I have grown them, like when I start seeds for them in these cups, I put 2 seeds. If both of them have germinated, I'm going to plant both of them in the garden. I'm not going to pick one out or whatever. So they're that close and they still grow and they're crazy beasts of plants. Okay, there's 2 plants behind me and they've taken over this entire bed. I do like to grow them vertically. I know you said you have them in a barrel. I don't know if you have a way to get them to grow vertically. Because they form large, like baseball bat size squashes, and when you grow them vertically, they're nice and straight. It's just pleasant to the eye. I don't know. I like them nice and straight. If you grow them on the ground, they're gonna like curl up. I mean, still completely edible and fine. It's just the shape. They're gonna get a little bit curly. These behind me, they are growing vertically on this trellis that I made, but these vines are huge. This thing has overtaken my whole bed. And they have sprawled on the ground, and I am tired of picking them up and trying to throw them back over this trellis. So I've let them be, and they're fine. They're completely fine, and there are some forming, like, just everywhere at this point. But my preference is to grow them vertically, if you can. We have them next to the moringa. We're going to try to train them up there. I mean, that might work if your moringa is like a mature moringa tree with a very thick trunk, because these squashes, the tromboncinos, they're heavy. They're really heavy. I don't know if you've ever maybe grown loofah or something like that. They are heavy. They're huge, and they're heavy. So I don't want it to break your moringa plant. But maybe, I don't know. If you have a really big moringa plant, then it might work. It's 20 foot tall. Oh, okay. You might be fine. It'll work out. And if a branch of your moringa breaks, take those leaves and make powder with it, or feed it to your chickens. You're so excited? Yeah, so am I. All right, so what else can we start growing right now? I said all flowers, all of them, just start growing them from seed right now. You still have time to get another round of cucumbers, like the Asian varieties that tend to grow better during the summer because they like the heat and the rain. or just traditional. Like I'm about to start seeds for pickling type cucumbers like that. They tend to like more mild climate, so I don't grow those during the summer here in Florida because Florida summers are like jungle gardening. So that's when I'll grow the Asian varieties of cucumbers. But yeah, you can start direct sowing cucumber seeds right now, and yard long beans. Someone already asked that question because they take 2 months from seed to harvest. So you definitely could fit another round of yard long beans and corn, sweet corn. You can definitely fit in sweet corn right now. I grow sweet corn during the summer. It's a little tricky because they will get those worms. They will get those corn earwig worms, I think is what they're called. They're brown. And they will decimate your corn crop if you are not on top of it. So I use spinosad. I'm not playing with those worms. They will literally eat up my corn crop in like 2 days. So I use spinosad. If you don't have spinosad or you don't want to use it, then don't grow corn because it's not going to work for you. It's just not. They are covered in worms. There's no humanly way you can pick off all those worms if you want to try and be like organic about it. Some people do that. Just no way. No way. So please use spinosad with your corn if you want to try growing it over the summer. Be successful with it. And spinosad is an organic product. I do have a link to this to an Amazon. I have a link in my bio to an Amazon list where I put all the products and stuff that I mentioned so you can find it. So this is in there if you want to get the same one. It is considered organic. It's OMRI rated. It's non-toxic to humans and animals. But I love this stuff. Like I wouldn't be able to grow a lot of things without it. Anyways, now here's the thing with beans. Yard long beans are a tropical plant. Dahlias. Dahlias, I plant dahlia tubers once it cools down a little bit. Yeah, they will grow here. I typically do it like in February because that's when you'll start seeing the dahlia tubers like in all the big box stores. So I'll plant them in February and they'll bloom for me and grow and everything. And then usually die when June comes around, June, July. They don't like that intense heat and rain and all that, but they will grow here if you plant those tubers like in January, February, around there. Any luck with Brussels sprouts? Dang, I have tried growing Brussels sprouts. It was a long time ago. Which brings me to some of my next items. All brassicas, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cucumbers, kale. I mean, not cucumbers, cauliflower. All the brassicas, kales. I'm starting them from seed right now, but indoors because those are very sensitive to heat. If it's too hot, which it is, it's too hot outside to have those outside, it will stunt the growth of your seedlings. So you'll notice they'll be like this big forever, and you'll be like, why aren't my brassicas growing? Because the heat stunts them. So if you want to get a head start on your brassicas in the south, start them indoors from seed. Right now, it's August, so that they'll be nice, big-sized transplants come October. October is when I start transplanting all of my brassicas into the garden. Brussels sprouts, I would say, is probably one of the more sensitive. You'll have more luck with broccoli and cauliflower or whatever. Brussels sprouts are a little bit more sensitive. But if you're going to do it, that's when you would do it. Get those plants into the garden in October. So beans, let me go back to the beans. So beans, bush beans and pole beans. I find that they are not happy here in the middle of our summer. They don't like that intense heat, and they tend to get rust. If you've ever grown beans before and they have like a weird yellow coloring on the leaves and stuff, it's typically some kind of disease. Typically what I see is rust. And they get that more often when I'm growing them in hotter weather. So I don't even grow the bush beans or the vining pole beans during the summer. That's when I switch to my yard long beans. Because I just find they struggle. They're not very happy. The rattlesnake pole bean variety, which I have seeds in my Etsy shop, tolerates the heat the best out of all those traditional kind of beans, I would say. So right now, in August, I'm going to start direct sowing some of those because I want to get, some traditional green beans now, not just the yard long beans. So rattlesnakes, you can start growing those right now. I would wait until September 1st to start direct sowing seeds for the bush beans and the vining beans. And that way, it's a little bit cooler, they're happier, and I'll be getting fresh green beans just in time for Thanksgiving. That's how I like to do it. So I can make like green bean casserole or whatever with green beans from my garden. So, yeah, we're almost there where you can start putting in the seeds for all of those. And I have seeds for a lot of those varieties in my Etsy shop. My favorite bush bean is Harvester for like a green variety. It's just Very productive, bushy, healthy looking plants. And the beans are nice and straight. I don't know. It's just a very good looking variety, healthy and everything. I have grown tons of other varieties, but it just seems like the harvester does really well. And I really like the golden wax. It's just a unique color. It's like a golden yellow color, and it's just really pretty when I'm cooking the green and the yellow green beans together. I just like that. So those two are by far like my favorite bush beans, and I do have seeds in my Etsy shop for those. And the rattlesnake pole beans, I'll usually have that growing then vertically on something. So that's a lot of beans right there. And okay, so now in September, we're getting close to September, right? That's when I will start sowing all my like lettuces and greens, like the Asian greens, the tatsoi, bok choy, like all those, the Asian Napa cabbages, stuff like that. Because same thing as brassicas, when they're exposed to a lot of heat, it stunts their growth, and they're not coming back out of that. They stay little forever. So I will start sowing those probably in a patio just to keep them a little bit away from the heat. So that way, in about a month, usually your transplants are about a nice size to pop them in the garden. But yeah, September is the time of the year when you want to start thinking about the lettuces and stuff like that that are tender greens when it comes to heat. The only exception to that is I do have seeds in my Etsy shop for a variety called Canton. It's a white stemmed bok choy. I don't know. That bok choy is very impressive. Every time I grow it, it produces a lot of seeds too. So it just reseeds like all over my garden. And I do find that particular bok choy growing in June and July. I have some right now, actually, on the other side of my garden. So it has a very high heat tolerance, and I have not come across another bok choy variety that grows through the summer here. But the Canton white stem bok choy does. So you can start like I'm gonna start throwing seeds of that like everywhere right now, direct sowing, because it will be fine with the heat. Okay, and now we're gonna move into October. That's when I'm gonna start direct sowing all those tender greens. So if you want to get a head start on those greens, the lettuces, the tatsoi, all that kind of stuff, the Napa cabbages, start them indoors in September so the heat doesn't stunt them. But October is when you can start transplanting all of those things, or just go ahead and direct sow seed those things. And then the last thing is November. November is when I plant the crops that absolutely need cold. Like they are not happy unless it's getting on the chilly side. And that would be any kind of pea, snow pea, or spinach. Like those kind of things I find we have a very short window to grow those. I direct start them from seed, direct sow them in November, and they will grow because they take like 2 to 3 months to start producing for you. So they'll grow very happily in December, January, February. I start harvesting a lot of it. And then when March comes, it starts warming up, and you can tell like they're not happy anymore. So it's a very, very short little window. So just giving you guys a heads up. If you're in zones 8, 9, 10, 11, if you want to grow snow peas, pea spinach, direct sow those seeds in November, like the first or second week of November. And that's it. That's the only time you get to grow them. Cabbage. Do you already... Oh, did I already do chicken coop tour? One time I went live and I showed you guys my chicken coop, and I do have some videos of it. Periodically I will show you guys more, and I'll also show you do tours of my garden. It's just whatever I'm doing that day. Really, a lot of this stuff that my content that I'm posting, if it's new, it's literally what I'm doing that day. I'm out here in the gardens every day. My chicken coop, actually today I made a lot of changes. I added some more roosting bars. I put in some another like dust bath for them. It's just like something I'm always working on, really. So, but I will definitely do a chicken coop tour. Make sure you follow me. I will probably post that one, and you'll see it. Is it possible to grow plants inside a chicken coop so they have something to peck on? No. Chickens will tear up your garden and plants. They eat it all. And the bad thing about chickens is that they scrape and they will like uproot things and kill the plants. But you can grow stuff on the outside of the coop if they have like an ability to grow, you know, to where the chickens can get to it. But you need to protect the root and the stem, is what I'm trying to say. So the chickens can't get to that and kill the plant. I actually have some ideas for my chickens because I'm growing a lot of things to feed them, like leafy greens and moringa and all that, to get like those strawberry stackable towers and like plant those up and maybe every month or two make a new one so I can switch them out and they'll have access to some fresh greens. I've also seen people take pallets, like those wood pallets. They'll put a pallet down and then they'll sow seeds inside of that, if that makes sense, so that the chickens can eat it, like grass, for example. They'll sow like grasses in there so the chickens can eat the greens but not kill the root system of those plants, and the plants will just keep like growing. Chickens, they will destroy your plants. Like I cannot have mine free roaming because they will destroy my garden. So yeah, that's not gonna that's not gonna work for me. What is growing behind me? I already talked about it. This is Tromboncino rampicante. I have seeds in my Etsy shop. It's a squash. It's an Italian heirloom squash that grows like, it looks like a baseball bat. It literally, it's huge and in the shape of a baseball bat. If you pick it while it's still light green, you can use it just like you would zucchini. I actually prefer it over zucchini because its texture is kind of more of like a buttery flavor, and the texture is more, it doesn't get mushy like zucchini. So I love it. Or you can leave the thing on the vine until it gets hard, like the shell of it will turn tan, like pumpkins and other like winter storage squashes and stuff like that. And you can use it as a winter storage squash. So there's a lot of different uses for it. It typically lasts 3 months if you store it as a winter squash. So not very long term like some of your other winter storage squashes. But I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. And there's two plants here. It's massive. If you've ever grown something like loofah or any kind of gourds, I believe technically it is a gourd. It's massive. It's really huge. But I grow this. It grows practically year round in my garden, and it's unfazed really by the pests and stuff like that. Oh, you're welcome. I love to give you guys ideas. You guys give me ideas too. You guys inspire me just as much as I inspire you guys, and I learn from everyone too. But yeah, so that was it. I just wanted to check in on your tomato seedlings and get you guys ready for fall. Take advantage. Right now, I haven't shown much of my garden because it's a disaster. It's a huge mess. I'm trying to get ready for fall, and I hope all of you guys are doing the same so we can all have the best fall, winter, and spring growing season and harvest the most ever. But that's it, guys. Typically, I only do these sessions for like 30 minutes. It's been an hour. So any more questions before I go? Hurry up, put them in there. If I don't get to your question, you can message me. You can tag me on your stuff. I like to see, how your plants are doing. If you buy any seeds from my shop, please tag me. I love to see how my plants are doing in other people's gardens. I love to see the harvest that you guys get. That stuff makes me so happy that my seeds are growing in other gardens. So yeah, feel free to contact me. I love spreading the knowledge, information, answering questions whenever possible. Sorry to clarify, when do you plant the green beans? Green beans, so traditional bush beans or vining like pole beans, I will start direct sowing them September 1st, or that first week of September. They don't like the heat that much. Or if you want to grow the rattlesnake vining beans, you can direct sow those now because they handle the heat a lot better. When we fertilize, do we top or bottom water? Good question. I assume you mean like seedlings or stuff in like containers like this. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm lazy. So I top fertilize, I mix it in a watering can and I fertilize all my stuff because they're like on lots of shelves. So it would be kind of hard for me to go in and fill in all, they are sitting inside of trays that don't have holes in it. So I can't fill that up. If you're using a liquid fertilizer, you can mix that, pour it into that tray, and then they will bottom feed and absorb all that nutrition along with the water. You should be bottom feeding with water, especially with your seedlings. For me, it's a little challenging though because I have literally shelves and shelves and shelves of seedlings right now. I'm also going to be starting to sell plants soon. That was like the next goal I had for myself in life, is to start selling plants. A lot of people have been asking me, because you see a lot of plants that I have in my garden, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not like an official nursery or anything. I can't do that, but I am now. So I have also started a lot of cuttings for stuff, and same thing, like, if you can bottom feed them, that's even better. Is it possible to make money from a small backyard garden? Maybe. I mean, if you want to sell your own seeds or your own plants, please register in your state before you do that. Don't. I sell on Etsy. I know there's a lot of people selling plants and stuff on Etsy, but you're not like a registered, like with your state. As a person that sells seeds, I am registered. You have to be a seed dealer. And with the nursery, I'm now a registered nursery to do that. People get caught. Like, for example, if I ship this plant to another state and their state decides to confiscate that shipment and look at it and check it or whatever, and they find out that I'm not registered officially, you know, you can get fined like big time for that. It's pretty serious. There's a lot of rules and regulations because they don't want diseases spreading from one state to another. Like right now in Florida, we grow citrus, but there's like a horrible disease with our citrus right now. It's called greening, and we're not allowed to ship citrus out of our state to a lot of other states because of that. So please, you can sell products you make from your garden, like if you make tea, whatever. There is a lot of things you can do. You trust me. And if you can do it, if you love gardening and you're doing it every day, you might as well make some side money with it, or have a little side business with it. That's what I do. I have another full-time job. I hope to quit that one day and go full-time into this, just like many of other of you. But yeah, definitely, if you can think of something that you'd want to sell, give it a try. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. I do have to go. It's been an hour when it's supposed to be 30 minutes, but I love talking to all of you. Obviously, have a lot to say, a lot of information to give out to you guys. Again, if you have any questions or I missed something, please message me, contact me, whatever. I love giving you guys information, and I try to answer all of those things. Next time we will be meeting is September. I want to say the second Sunday of September, something like that. I do have a section, I forget what you call it, in TikTok for tomatoes, or for the Heirloom Grow Live, and I put the schedule in there. You can also sign up in the email. There's like an email sign up link in my bio, and I can send you that information through email as well. If you guys want to buy seeds from my Etsy shop, I do have a discount code right now. It's SAVE10, SAVE10 for SAVE10, and get 10% off your order. Start thinking about what you want to grow this fall, because you need to start ordering your seeds now. I plan to have my entire fall and winter garden planted by the end of September. That is the goal. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to chat with me. Well, I'll see you guys again in about 2 weeks. Bye.